It happens in the kitchen. One parent reaches for the other. A quick kiss, barely 2 seconds, the kind of thing adults stop noticing after a while. Then you see the baby watching, not glancing, watching, completely still, completely focused, with an expression that is difficult to name, not confusion exactly, something more like intense concentration, like a scientist who has just observed something they urgently need to understand. Most parents smile at it, maybe do it again to see what happens. Then the moment passes and nobody thinks much more about it. Developmental psychologists have been thinking about it for 20 years, and what they found inside that still, focused gaze is one of the most consequential things researchers have ever discovered about how human beings learn to love. Here is the assumption everyone makes. Babies learn about relationships by being in them. The bond between parent and child is what shapes them. What happens between their parents is background, too abstract, too distant for an infant brain to process meaningfully. The data says something fundamentally different. In 2013, researchers at the University of Illinois published findings from a study examining what infants actually process when they observe affectionate interactions between caregivers. They used eye-tracking technology to map exactly where infants looked during staged interactions, some affectionate, some neutral, some tense. The infants showed dramatically increased attention and neural engagement during affectionate interactions, not just preference, measurably different processing. The infant brain was treating the affectionate interactions as high-priority information. Something important is happening here. I need to understand this. The researchers concluded that infants are not passive bystanders to the relationship between their caregivers. They are active students of it. But what exactly are they studying? Developmental psychologists call it the relational template. From the earliest weeks of life, the infant brain is not just forming individual attachments, it is building a model of what relationships are, how they work, what they look like from the outside, what happens between people who are close to each other. This model is assembled from observation before the infant has any capacity for language or abstract reasoning. It is built from data, and the primary data source is the relationship they have the most access to, yours. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, studying the intergenerational transmission of relationship patterns, found something that stopped the field. The quality of the parents' relationship with each other was a stronger predictor of the child's later romantic attachment style than many aspects of the direct parent-child relationship itself. Watching their parents was doing something the direct relationship alone could not. The baby watching you kiss is not observing a display of affection. They are taking notes on what love looks like when it is freely given between equals, and those notes will be consulted decades later in situations you will never witness. Here is where the science becomes more specific. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute studying infant social cognition found that infants as young as 5 months old demonstrate what they call third-party relationship evaluation. They can assess the quality of interactions between adult figures, some warm, some cold. Those same adults were then presented to the infant individually. The infants showed measurably greater approach behavior toward adults they had observed in warm interactions, even though those adults had never directly interacted with them. The infant brain is not only learning from what happens to them, it is learning from what it watches happen between the people around them, and it is using that learning to build a map of who is safe, what safety looks like, and what kind of world this is. When your baby watches you and your partner in a moment of warmth, they are not just seeing two people, they are updating that map. The world just produced evidence that closeness is safe, that the people at the center of their universe are okay, that the ground beneath everything is stable. Now, here is the finding that most parents are completely unprepared for, because the effect is not symmetrical. A 2018 study from the University of Rochester found that infants in low warmth but low conflict households, homes that were stable and adequate but not affectionate, showed stress response profiles measurably different from infants in high warmth households. Not as disrupted as infants from high conflict homes, but not the same as infants surrounded by visible affection between caregivers. Warmth between parents is not simply the absence of damage, it is active, positive input with its own measurable effects on the developing nervous system. Loving each other visibly in front of your baby is not incidental to parenting. According to the data, it is part of it. This does not require performance. The postpartum period is one of the most documented high-stress windows in any long-term relationship. Researchers are clear that relationship satisfaction typically drops in the first year after a child is born, and that this is normal and does not determine long-term outcomes. What matters is not frequency or intensity. What the infant nervous system is detecting is atmosphere, and atmosphere is built from accumulation. A hand on a shoulder, a laugh at something only the two of you understand, a look across the room that the baby can see even if they cannot interpret it. The nervous system developing in that room is not grading performance, it is detecting atmosphere. So, the next time you reach for your partner in the kitchen and notice the baby watching, remember what is happening inside that still, focused gaze. A brain building its first and most durable model of what love between people looks like. A small person taking notes they will carry forward into every significant relationship of their adult life. You are not just partners in that moment, you are teachers, and the lesson being learned has nothing to do with anything you plan to teach. Subscribe. Every week, the science of what your baby is quietly learning from you.